Tonight, a local legend killed in a freak speedway racing tragedy in Daylesford.
Breaking news on a shock park sex attack in Melbourne's southeast.
The hunt for clues after a Ringwood nightclub stabbing leaves a victim critically injured.
US fighter jets shoot down a third flying object as the China spy saga deepens.
A mercy mission begins to bring a critically sick baby home from Bali.
Survivors share tales of heroism 40 years on from Ash Wednesday.
And the little-known spinner plucked from the wilderness to help save Australia's Test team.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Madden and Mike Amor.
Good evening. A local motorsport legend has been killed in a freak high-speed crash at a popular speedway event in Daylesford.
The 48-year-old died when his car flipped in front of hundreds of spectators, leaving a close-knit racing community reeling.
Just hours before Stephen Douglas was killed in a horror high-speed crash, he was captured grinning from ear to ear on a high after winning a heat earlier that day. The next race would be his last.
The news last night was devastating for the whole community.
Witnesses described it as a freak accident. It's understood the 48-year-old crashed into an embankment. The car rolled as two competing drivers smashed into him. He was airlifted in a critical condition but later died. His passenger, Jay Miles, suffered serious injuries to his back.
Crashed out earlier in the day. So Duggo, being Duggo, said, I'll jump in the passenger seat and come for a bit of a ride. Remembers sort of waking up and getting out of the car, sort of lying on the side of the track there waiting for the ambulance crew.
The tragedy unfolded in front of hundreds of spectators at the Shivers Memorial Day, an event that attracts dozens of competitors each year. Affectionately known as Duggo, Mr Douglas was a farmer, a long-running member of the Poowong CFA and a role model to youngsters in the speedway community.
Just putting a smile on people's faces, that's what he was all about.
A GoFundMe page has been set up to assist his wife Sandra. It's already raised more than $4,000. A memorial race is also being organised in Duggo's honour, with hopes his old car will be repaired in time to make a comeback on the track.
Fix that car and go again. He would want everyone to go, get back to Speedway. Don't give up. Just because of this, don't stop.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
Terrifying details are emerging tonight of a violent sex attack in a park in Melbourne's southeast. Crime reporter Cassie Zervos has the exclusive details from Pakenham. And Cassie, a brave witness rushed to help the teenager.
Well, Mike, 7 News can exclusively reveal this is the location where the sickening attack unfolded on Friday night at around 7 p.m. What we know is that the 18-year-old victim was simply going for a walk around the lake here at East Stone Reserve when she was attacked by a stranger. The man, aged in his 20s, held her down and removed her underwear, but her piercing screams for help could be heard by locals nearby. And that's when a Good Samaritan rushed across the road. He not only pulled the man off the victim, but he also made a citizen's arrest before police arrived. The victim, aged in her, she was 18 years old, wasn't needed to be taken to hospital, but she was assessed here at the scene. The attacker, however, is in Casey Hospital tonight under police guard, but witnesses say had it not been for the brave father, this situation could have been so much worse. Mike.
Live in Pakenham, Cassie Zervos, thank you.
A young man has been left for dead after a stabbing attack outside a Ringwood nightclub. Bethan Yeoman is at the Royal Melbourne Hospital for us tonight. Beth, he was rushed there with life-threatening injuries.
Beck, the 21-year-old victim was stabbed multiple times in the stomach just minutes after leaving Void nightclub in Ringwood around 3 this morning. Witnesses say he stepped in to defend his friends from derogatory comments when he was allegedly attacked by an 18-year-old. The teen fled the scene but was arrested nearby and is currently being questioned by detectives. This afternoon, authorities combed bushland near the accused home in Kallarama, searching for the weapon, which is believed to be a 15-centimetre hunting knife. The victim suffered critical injuries and underwent emergency surgery. He's currently in a stable condition. Beck.
Bethan Yeoman, thank you.
A US fighter jet has shot down another flying object, this time above Canada, as tensions grow over the Chinese spy balloon saga. Canada's Prime Minister ordered the hit, the third known takedown in North American skies in the past week.
This was meant to solve the security mystery above America. In fact, 1 week after the US Air Force shot down China's suspected spy balloon, there's a whole new raft of questions about potential threats.
The object was flying at an altitude of approximately 40,000 feet.
Canada's Defence Minister confirms the shooting down of an unidentified aircraft by an American F-22 fighter flying with one other US and 2 Canadian fighter jets. Earlier, this from Canada's Prime Minister Trudeau: "I ordered the takedown of an unidentified object that violated Canadian airspace. The mystery aircraft
had unlawfully entered Canadian airspace and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight."
Canadian Armed Forces and police now searching for wreckage in the Yukon as a similar recovery operation unfolds in neighbouring Alaska. Another unidentified aircraft shot down there yesterday. Among questions to Canada's Defence Minister, one reporter asked if there were indications the downed aircraft was not terrestrial, not from this world. No suggestion of that, though the minister did say there were potential similarities to the balloon shot down a week ago.
It appears to be a small cylindrical object.
In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
A mercy mission is underway tonight to bring a critically ill baby home from Bali after generous donors answered a Melbourne mum's desperate plea for help. Emma O'Sullivan has the latest for us tonight. Emma, the little girl will be flown to Brisbane.
Beck, 7-week-old Lucky, is due to arrive in Australia tomorrow for life-saving treatment at a Brisbane hospital. She's suffering from a severe bacterial infection. Doctors in Bali told her family she had a 50-50 chance of survival. Queensland company Medical Rescue have confirmed a team would leave Queensland today for Bali with an emergency doctor and nurse on board the flight to bring Lucky to Brisbane. After public pleas from Lucky's Melbourne mother, Hania Himza, there's been a huge response to a GoFundMe page. So far, it's raised more than $190,000. There are more than a dozen donations of $1,000 or more. Hospital fees in Bali cost the family $8,000 a day, and even with a discount, the Medivac flight from Bali will cost more than $100,000. Beck?
Emma O'Sullivan, thank you.
Detectives are stepping up their hunt for those responsible for killing 2 men and a pet dog in a western suburbs driveway. 29-year-old Atem Atem was shot dead alongside his friend in the early morning ambush in Wyndham Vale. A third man survived and is in a stable condition in hospital. Police are investigating how many men were involved in the drive-by confrontation.
Security officials in southern Turkey are bracing for looting and chaos as tensions rise in the disaster zone. Remarkable stories of survival are emerging, with victims pulled from the rubble 6 days after earthquakes rocked the region.
A Turkish Navy ship, now a floating hospital. Patients arrive at this port every minute, injured in the earthquakes or aftershocks. Others suffering from prolonged exposure to the cold. 80,000 survivors of all ages need medical treatment. This ship has an operating room and intensive care units, but doctors are battling to keep up. The majority of patients here are from the nearby town of Iskenderun. Some of them were actually being treated in the hospital before the earthquake. On Monday, that hospital's emergency department collapsed. 6 days on, they are desperate for treatment. Earlier this week, Iskenderun was chaotic, sirens and frantic searches. Now, on some streets, silence, reflecting the shift from saving residents to recovering the dead. But there are exceptions. When the mental strength of a survivor, the perseverance of a rescuer deliver a miracle. 63-year-old Suleiman I, delicately taken from what had been his concrete cage of 133 hours, alive.
Desperate families have been keeping vigil here day and night for 6 days, and somehow, despite all the odds, someone's prayers have just been answered.
We had heard a voice, he says. We are very happy. We are very, very happy. Never giving in despite the risks. Thankfully, the two men caught in this were okay and kept searching. This is considered the region's worst disaster in a century. Millions of people across Turkey and war-ravaged Syria homeless in the middle of winter. If they didn't die under rubble or from injuries, they could still die from disease.
What does your town need in the weeks and the months ahead?
We need shelter, somewhere to sleep. It's freezing. In a place where for now happiness is fleeting, lost in the horror. In Iskenderun, Turkey, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
Doctors are urging the federal government to approve a plan to allow patients to get 2 months' supply of prescription medications instead of just one. The change would apply to 143 common drugs, including antibiotics, cholesterol and blood pressure medicines. The Australian Medical Association says it could save patients up to $180 a year, but pharmacists argue it'll slash their incomes.
Victoria is rallying to remember the victims of Ash Wednesday on the 40th anniversary of the bushfire disaster. Survivors shared their stories, trading tales of heroism from that terrifying February day.
Victorians pause to remember a day no one can forget. 40 years on from February 16, 1983, Ash Wednesday, when the sky across the Dandenongs, Surf Coast and Macedon Ranges burnt orange in 8 fires that killed 47 people.
Including, unfortunately, 14 CFA firefighters who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
What started as a scorching hot day turned deadly for so many after a sudden and violent wind change fanned the flames. Brian Manette's father John became trapped, fighting on the front line at Upper Beaconsfield.
It sits very well that, Dad saved lives before he perished.
Lisa and Steve Hicks met in the CFA and were newly married when the ferocious Ash Wednesday bushfires separated them for 10 days.
It took different toll on both of us. Days like today are really hard.
Ruth South, then a new mum, left her cockatoo home in the morning and never saw her property again.
It's just a pile of, metal and not much else.
Ruth is now a volunteer at the Bushfire Education Centre, where today the community came together to pay tribute and reflect. Days like today are so important to recognise the heroism of our firefighters and the tragedy of lives lost on Ash Wednesday. But it's also hoped that through commemorations like this, the Victorian community will continue to learn from the events of that day.
The message is to have a plan. Now, whether your plan is to leave early in the morning or to stay and defend your house, have a plan.
A simple step with life-altering consequences. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
A vicious brawl has erupted inside a busy restaurant in Sydney. The scuffle started when 2 teenage girls got into an argument near the counter as the brawl quickly spread onto the floor. Police haven't ruled out charging the group with a fray.
Norfolk Island has been spared the worst of Tropical Cyclone Gabrielle. The strong winds brought down trees and power lines as it passed the island as a Category 2 system overnight. It's since been downgraded to a subtropical low and is moving south. It didn't make landfall in Queensland, which is now sweltering through a heat wave. Temperatures soared above 40 degrees in some inland areas today. Residents west and north of Brisbane were put on alert as bushfires raged out of control.
The sporting world is in the grip of Super Bowl fever as we count down to tomorrow's blockbuster game. There's a distinct Aussie flavour this year with a former St Kilda star picked to play alongside a fellow countryman making waves in the US.
Chiefs and Eagles having a final say. Before the biggest show in American sport finally moves to the field. Delighting Philly fans, late news, Melbourne-born punter Aaron Sipos outran an injury cloud.
Not only can he punt, but have you seen that guy coverage punts?
He'll line up alongside Sydney's Man Mountain, Jordan Mailata, and together they could become Australia's first ever Super Bowl champions if the bookies are to be believed.
And who else do we got? Jordan Mailata!
I've been in their shoes before. Hopefully for the Australians' sake that we finally get to see an Australian win a Super Bowl.
Mailata's old school, Sydney's Condell Park High, has cancelled classes tomorrow. His old club ready to party. All eyes on the NFL newcomer.
He was a phenomenal athlete, so to see him in the Super Bowl 11 years later is not surprising.
But not all are sold. Big bucks still rolling in for Kansas City, looking to prevail on football's biggest stage for the second time in 4 years.
Well, Mick, you're going against what most of Australia will be doing tomorrow, I think.
No, mate, I'm quite happy to be on Patrick Mahomes' team.
Yeah.
It's all good, yeah.
For any ticketless footy fans looking for a way into tomorrow's big game, there is some good news. Ticket resale sites here in the United States have been experiencing a sharp downturn in the average cost of admission. Still, those wanting to go should expect to fork out thousands.
Average price right now is at $6,400, which has dropped steadily over the past few days.
That's US dollars. Try closer to 10,000 Aussie dollars for a foot in. And with 1 million footy fans flocking to Phoenix, there's been no skimping on security as the curtain raises on Super Bowl 57. In Phoenix, Arizona, David Woywood, 7 News.
Well, Abby Jelmy is here with a look ahead to sport. Abby, the Aussies were left red-faced in India.
Beck, fans were lost for words, but a former skipper had plenty to say. That's coming up, as a little-known spinner is plucked from nowhere to join the squad for the second test. The Bombers rally around Dyson Heppell, while a Magpie star hints at a new role for the season ahead. What got the party hole rocking in Phoenix, causing a shower of beer on the greens? King James sidelined, but still causing plenty of excitement in the NBA, and we'll hear from ex-Saint Aaron Sipos ahead of that Super Bowl. We're excited.
Very exciting. Thanks, Abby. A Geelong mother and son caught up in the SeaWorld helicopter disaster have broken their silence on their miracle escape. Exclusive details next on 7.
Also ahead, a surprise twist for a Victorian car raffle winner stripped of her prize.
Why, there's finally some good news when it comes to your power bill.
A bold fashion statement as music megastars vie for glory.
And cooler weather over the next 2 days will have us recharging the batteries before the heat develops. Details later.
A Geelong mother caught up in the SeaWorld helicopter tragedy has revealed how she thought she'd die on a Gold Coast sandbank. Rochelle Brown has the details. Rochelle, Winnie De Silva and her son are on the long road to recovery.
Mike, Ms De Silva and her 9-year-old son Leon were on the joyride of a lifetime when the unthinkable happened. They were among 3 people to survive the collision of 2 SeaWorld helicopters that killed 3 other passengers and the pilot. Ms De Silva's described how she was pinned under the wreckage with aviation fuel pouring over her.
Holding my hand, giving me hope. And then I say, when is help coming? They said 15 or 30 minutes. Oh no, I can't make it. I told them I can't make it. I started crying. They said, Winnie, hold on, you're very brave.
The 33-year-old has 2 broken legs, a crushed collarbone, blood clots and burns. Her son Leon suffered a brain injury in the crash and the pair remain separated in 2 different Queensland hospitals. The full interview can be seen exclusively on Sunrise tomorrow morning. Mike?
Rochelle, thank you.
A man is in hospital in a serious condition after he fell down a hole in Greensboro just before 5 this morning. It took firefighters more than 2 hours to winch the 43-year-old back up on Main Street. The victim is in the Royal Melbourne Hospital with upper body injuries.
The federal government says its intervention in the energy market is driving down forecast price rises by more than 30% in Victoria. And they're promising even more relief is on the way.
Power prices have sent the cost of living into a spin, but the Treasurer says the ride is slowing down.
The energy market expects our energy plan to do its job.
New analysis shows the government's coal and gas price caps have prompted sharp wholesale electricity price drops. Down 41% in New South Wales, 46% in Queensland, 34% in Victoria and 48% in South Australia. An average reduction of almost $83 a megawatt hour.
Is absolutely good news, and it does, I think, justify the government's intervention last year.
Wholesale prices have always been volatile. They always will be volatile. What matters is what happens to Australians' electricity bills. And electricity bills are going up.
Just not as much as first feared.
Still going to get some pain, but it's certainly a whole lot better than what we were told to expect in October, November last year.
Jim Chalmers warning he expects those savings to be passed on to households.
It will make a meaningful difference. It will take some of the pressure off inflation by taking some of the sting out of these higher energy prices.
There's more help in the May budget. The centrepiece, $1.5 billion in energy bill discounts for vulnerable Australians. Part of the Treasurer's 3-point plan to address inflation.
Relief, repair and restraint.
With heavy emphasis on restraint. The Treasurer says despite expecting another short-term boost to the budget bottom line thanks to higher commodity prices, he'll be banking the extra revenue. Confident Australia will avoid a recession, but saving for more difficult days to come. Rob Scott, 7 News.
A Victorian woman has been gifted a new car after she won a Nissan Patrol through a raffle only to have it repossessed because it was under finance. WA company Car Hub Australia found a new vehicle through a Sydney dealership to give to the Colac victim.
We wanted to do something, to help her out in the situation because, look, we know how special it is when someone wins a vehicle. It was really, really life-changing, and for her to go through all that, only to have it taken away 6 months later from a company not doing the right thing.
Amelia Conway has since posted to social media thanking everyone for their support.
Singer Sam Smith has made a grand entrance at the Brit Awards. The blow-up black latex look made a dramatic fashion statement, even if it made for some awkward moments. It was one of many bold looks on this year's red carpet.
And the winner of Pop and R&B Act is the one and only Harry Styles.
Harry Styles dominated the awards, winning 4 categories, including Best Song.
Victorian prisoners are getting a pay rise while they sit behind bars, and it's more than some of the state's hardest workers. Details next on 7 News.
Also ahead, the race to recruit tradies to help solve Melbourne's construction problems.
Protesting pensioners take to the streets of Paris.
And what's driving an alarming rise in heart problems since COVID.
There's outrage tonight over the decision to give Victorian prisoners a pay rise of 4%. It brings annual inmate pay packets to just over $2,400 or $9.40 a day.
It's irrelevant how much the actual cost is. We've got people who are working in the public sector who have to go on strike to get any sort of pay rise from this government.
This is an increase of 45 cents since 2015. These are really important payments that enable prisoners to budget and to plan, including for the purchase of basic items such as toiletries or indeed phone credits.
The opposition says it has a problem with the timing of the increase, as many Victorian households struggle with increasing costs of living.
Australia's building boom is beginning to slow, with pressure easing on in-demand trades. There are now tens of thousands of more workers in the industry, but the cost and supply of products is still a major challenge.
Finding a tradie has been a steep task in recent years, but finally there's light at the end of the tunnel.
We're certainly seeing an ease in the amount of demand for trades. We are seeing trades now coming into our platform at record levels.
5,000 tradies signing up to online directory high pages last month alone, as competition for work heats up. Electrician Darcy Stewart calling in help during the boom, wiring more houses than ever before.
I just took on my first full-time tradesman, and I put up an ad for first-year apprentices about a month ago, and I got about 70 applications.
A trend seen industry-wide, with an additional 99,000 workers employed from May to November last year. The Housing Industry Association puts the uptick in labour down to the return of overseas workers post-pandemic. However, it says there's still specific shortages in areas like roofing and scaffolding, bricklaying and ceramic tiling.
Some of the categories that we're seeing availability for trades is in building, handyman, plumbing and electrical, so some of those traditional trades.
Don't expect overall construction costs to drop quickly. Average prices are up 9.4% year on year, and supply chain issues are persisting.
Usually quarterly increases on all of our materials, from cable to power points to light switches.
Problems not letting up anytime soon. Josh Martin, 7 News.
A former US military pilot currently being held in an Australian prison claims American officials are trying to make him a political example. Daniel Duggan, who is an Australian citizen, was arrested by the AFP late last year after a request from Washington. He's accused of training Chinese pilots to fly fighter jets. Duggan is fighting an extradition order, saying he has no criminal history and the allegations are non-violent.
Police have clashed with demonstrators in wild scenes on the streets of Paris over protests against France's new pension reforms. Police fired tear gas and stun grenades as hundreds of thousands took to the streets across the country. President Macron's government is seeking to raise the minimum retirement age to 64, up from 62. The boss of Russia's top mercenary group concedes it could take 2 years for Moscow to seize all of Ukraine's east. In a rare interview, the Wagner Group's leader suggested Russia's focus has now shifted to capturing the entire Donbass region. The Kremlin had originally planned to take the capital Kyiv in just 3 days. Specialist International Space Station technicians are carrying out an urgent troubleshoot after an unexpected loss of cabin pressure. Russia's space agency reported depressurization in a cargo craft docked to the ISS. The craft is unmanned and filled with rubbish and due to undock later this week. There's no threat to the station's crew.
New data has revealed Victorians are in worse shape than ever when it comes to heart health. And as Annie Puller explains, the pandemic is to blame.
We all hate to remember it, the days of COVID, the lockdowns when we lost all sense of routine, and some of us turned to find comfort in lounging around and eating and drinking lots. But now we've got the data that officially proves the pandemic was bad for our hearts. The Victor Chang Cardiac Research Institute have done heart checks for more than 6,000 people since COVID began, checking a number of what they call indicators. They include things like cholesterol, blood sugar and blood pressure. Around half the participants were outside the healthy range. Before COVID, it was less than 1 in 3. In order, the biggest issues were high cholesterol, then high blood pressure, and then blood sugar. In their words, the researchers say this is a massive increase and that these results prove that COVID has had a much bigger impact on us and our hearts beyond just catching the virus.
Thanks, Annie. A runaway emu has caused plenty of headaches in the US. Mallory was spotted at an intersection before racing her way through to a Massachusetts city centre. Police were called and eventually cornered her in a shopping centre car park after 3 hours. She's now safely back with her owner. Booze-fuelled travellers have been arrested in an airport crackdown on bad behaviour. Details next on 7.
Also ahead, the new secret to help shed those summer kilos.
What sparked this terrifying road rage attack on a busy highway?
And a group of Melbourne cyclists sparing all for a good cause.
A mother and her 10-month-old baby have been caught up in a terrifying act of road rage on a busy Sydney highway. She was forced to swerve after a driver blocked the road with his SUV. He then ran at her car multiple times in an angry ambush.
All I could think about was the safety of my child and how just erratic this guy was behaving and how unprovoked it was.
The driver is yet to be identified.
The way Melburnians travel west is about to change. From 5 tomorrow morning, drivers coming from the Westgate Bridge towards Geelong, Werribee or Laverton will need to use the left-hand lanes to exit onto the Princes Freeway. Motorists wanting to get to Ballarat, Deer Park or Caroline Springs will need to be in the right-hand lanes to use the new M80 exit ramp. Drivers will need to decide as early as Grieve Parade. There are extra signs in the area to help avoid confusion.
Bad behaviour was at the centre of a Christmas crackdown across Australia's airports, with federal police charging 49 passengers with 69 offences. Among those, a 41-year-old man who allegedly drank 700 mils of duty-free scotch before launching a verbal tirade at staff. And a 78-year-old woman is accused of biting a flight attendant. It's nearly double the amount charged from the previous year.
Dietitians and nutritionists are bracing for a surge in business as Victorians look to shed those summer holiday kilos. The best advice is to call on some expert help rather than going it alone.
Gyms in full swing.
Squat and pop.
Diet experts run off their feet as weight loss season begins.
It's a really busy time of year, so we know that people are tempted to go on diets at the moment.
With so many options, it can be a complicated choice. 20-year-old Coda Ibrahim has found success, dropping 12 kilos in a month.
After a few weeks, I'm more energetic. It's easier waking up in the morning.
The young tradie is trying meal replacement diet 1-to-1. It's more expensive than similar options like the Manshake or OptiSlim, but meals are tailored and the price includes catch-ups with a consultant.
It's so easy to cheat, you just, without having that accountability, you're like, okay, just today I might just have that biscuit.
Dietitians say it's better to see them as they provide holistic support.
Dietitians help people with a range of different medical conditions. It could be an allergy, it could be type 2 diabetes or heart disease.
Quoting studies finding dietitian-delivered interventions compared to others achieve greater weight reduction.
Food is fuel, so dietitians really provide that personalised support.
A new survey by Pure Profile reveals the top reasons why Australian adults are taking up diets, including no longer fitting into clothes, fears of getting a heart condition, and no longer being able to go outdoors to enjoy activities with family and friends.
It's made work and daily lifestyle a lot easier.
Dropping weight proving easier when you've got a helping hand. Josh Martin, 7 News.
Pressure is building on the AFL to freeze ticket prices for the 2023 season. The league says it's aware of cost of living pressures felt by Victorian families as it weighs up freezing prices for a 5th straight season. Last year, general admission tickets were $27 for an adult, $18 for concession card holders, $5 for children, and entry was free for kids under 4. Ticket prices are set to be revealed later this month.
A group of bare-bottom cyclists has stopped traffic in the city. The World Naked Bike Ride stripped off to promote cycling safety, body positivity and sustainable transport. 2023 is the 18th consecutive year they've ridden in Melbourne, the longest running nude ride. Oh, I'm getting through it in the world.
Looks like it could hurt.
We'll leave that alone. Abby Shelby is back with sport. Abby, I'll straighten up. A former Test captain has taken aim at the Aussies.
Well, Becky hasn't held back, telling the side to harden up. That's next, as an uncapped skipper gets a shock call-up and a ticket on the next flight to India. Plus, the Blues defender with a change of plans to stay on the park. 2 former Saints catch up as Aaron Sipos prepares to fly into Super Bowl folklore. And the moment a young NBA fan got the shock of her life. Welcome back. Little-known Queensland spinner Matt Kuhnemann has been called into the Australian squad for the rest of the Indian series. It comes after an Aussie capitulation in the first test, with former captain Alan Border calling for the team to harden up.
A mess of a test wrapped up inside 3 days.
Oh, no shout! It's all over now.
All out for 91, Australia's worst total on Indian soil and second lowest ever against India.
I think the challenge is kind of under the furnace, being brave enough to be proactive at times. So I think that'll be the conversations over the next couple of days.
Ravi Ashwin mesmerised the Australians with 5 wickets in the second innings that lasted just 2 hours.
Oh, good shout. That looked out.
What would you like to say about the last session?
Not too much.
We never thought that, they'll get bowled out in a session.
Matt Renshaw seen laughing on the bench with his side in a world of hurt. Legendary captain Alan Border believes the Aussies need to toughen up.
Play with a harder edge too. I mean, we're giving blokes thumbs up when they beat us outside the off stump.
I'm glad you're here, AP.
That is just ridiculous. Don't go stupid, but play Australian hard-nosed cricket.
Queensland spinner Matt Kuhnemann called into the squad and will fly over tomorrow morning from Melbourne to replace Mitch Swepson, who's returning home for the birth of his child.
To my surprise, pretty shocked, and I was probably, to be fair, a little bit nowhere the first session yesterday. If I got the opportunity, I'd like to think I'd be okay.
Travis Head likely to return after he was shockingly dropped.
Well, confident that was our best 11 for this week. We know how quality Trav is. He's a huge part of this team.
Mitchell Starc linked up with the team today to push for selection. Josh Hazlewood unlikely to be fit. Then there's Cameron Green.
Greeny's a bit of a wait and see, still hoping. He's had a couple of good hits out here. His bowling's pretty good, so the next couple of days we'll assess it.
Ravi Jadeja copped a fine for rubbing cream on his spinning finger but was cleared of ball tampering. The second test begins on Friday in Delhi. Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
And Australia's quest for a third straight Women's T20 World Cup title is off to a dream start with a crushing win over New Zealand. Elisa Healy hit a half-century as the Aussies posted 9 for 173 before Ash Gardner. She tore through the Kiwis, taking 5 for 12.
It's honestly probably only my second fifer in my whole career, so to do it on an international stage is certainly something that I'll cherish forever and something that I'm super proud of.
Australia play Bangladesh next on Wednesday morning. Darcy Parish has lifted the lid on Dyson Heppell's renewed enthusiasm ahead of the Bombers' captaincy call. Parish today joins some rivals to bring a smile, as the Magpies enforcer detailed his own leadership intentions.
Kicking goals with AFL stars.
Here we go! 2, 1.
Yes! Up close and personal on What Ability Day, connecting athletes with those living with a disability.
It's all about having fun and enjoying the time together and build them relationships along the way.
Just encourage happiness and fun, and that's all we want to do anyway.
Darcy Parish back from a pre-season Achilles concern, relishing the fresh start under Brad Scott.
Really enjoyed just learning a new sort of game style under Scotty, and being such a young group, I feel like he's been really clear and direct with what he wants.
Revealing the new regime has rejuvenated skipper Dyson Heppell, the ball in his court on whether he captains the Bombers into a 7th campaign.
It just looks like Hepp's come back with a fresh mindset and just a want to grow his game and improve his game, and his leadership has gone to another level this pre-season.
Collingwood's newest leader out to grow his influence.
I feel like I do most of my leading on field through my actions. I'm definitely still learning some off-field leadership, and that's why I've got such good people around me.
But the All-Australian backman coy on a want for more midfield time.
Hopefully. I don't want to give too much away because I've done that in recent interviews and I've gotten in a little bit of trouble.
The Pies met Carlton in a practice match Friday week. Caleb Marchbank planning to be there despite another tough year of injuries, forcing a summer rethink.
Sort of come up with a plan to take a sort of longer term approach and sort of bookend the weeks. So Monday, Fridays are my bigger sessions, with Wednesdays a little bit smaller. It's all about hopefully building resilience in the body to then withhold a full AFL season.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
The American dream of Aaron Sipos is edging closer after he was cleared to play for Philly in the Super Bowl. The former Saint sat down with his old skipper Nick Riewoldt, admitting there's been a few moments this week where he's had to pinch himself.
That's what I knew going into the business. What's the week been like?
Crazy, absolutely mental. So much going on. Get off the plane and the Super Bowl signs everywhere. The grand final one on AFL Day is obviously pretty cool, but I think this one might knock it just a little bit.
I think it might. I think you've got it covered.
The Eagles take on the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. It's live and free on 7 from 10 o'clock tomorrow. Socceroo Matthew Leckie has starred for Melbourne City, producing a stunning bicycle kick goal in a comfortable 4-2 win over Perth Glory. It extends their unbeaten streak to 8 games and lifts them 8 points clear at the top of the ladder. But there was more pain for Melbourne Victory, stranded at the bottom. The Newcastle Jets coming up with a 2-1 win. Adam Hadwin could be excused for being a little distracted playing at the party hole at the Phoenix Open. Instead, he just lapped up the atmosphere and produced the shot of the day.
Keep rolling, baby. Are you kidding me? The best shot of the day on the last shot of the day.
The crowd celebrated by throwing beer cups and water bottles over the fence. Hadwin is 3 shots off leader Scotty Scheffler, while Aussie Jason Day finished the 3rd round with a birdie. To be tied for 6th, he's 4 shots behind. There's VIP seats and then there's this. Now, one young NBA fan had the moment of her life, sitting courtside at the Warriors-Lakers game before LeBron James sat down right next to her, leaving the 12-year-old in shock.
I just freak out completely. I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, this is like the best moment of my life.
The best part of that interview is LeBron was sitting right there hearing that it was the best moment of her life. So I just loved it. Adults might try to play it cool and kids just have an absolute melter. It was unreal. I loved it.
Thanks, Abby. Sonia Marinelli is next with the weather and Son. We're back on the summer roller coaster.
That's right, Mike. A cool dip and then we're back up into heatwave territory. Stay tuned. I'll have the details next.
On 7 News, why more and more students are turning their backs on our schools and switching to special cyber classes to take on the world.
Oh my God, I got it!
Plus, it looks like a normal lounge room, but it hides a secret. See what police found underneath. 7 News with Peter Mitchell at 6.
Hello again on this Sunday evening. It is cool and it is breezy, but it's not a bad end to the weekend by any stretch of the imagination, because in between the cloud and these light showers, there was pockets of sunshine. That helped the temperature to rise a couple of bonus degrees today. We were expecting a top of 19. The city rose to 21 and as high as 22 degrees in outer suburbs. These southerly winds kicked in overnight, and when the sun is hidden, of course, the wind chill comes into play. Right now, temperatures holding in the high teens, although it's already dropped down to 14 in Ferny Creek. The showers are on a break, but the cloud thickens back up again overnight as the city drops down to a low of 15 degrees. We had cloud extending over southern Victoria today, delivering some light showers. It was dry and sunny in the north, but those cool winds kept a lid on temperatures right across the state. Tomorrow is shaping up to be very similar to today, a cool southerly airstream and some light showers pushing up and over the coast, but high pressure is set to take control. Highs generally clear out the skies and they warm up the winds, and that is exactly what this one will be doing. The high reaches Tasmania on Tuesday night, shifting the winds to a northerly airflow. That is going to drag down heat from central Australia. That has been building there, pushing it right down into southern Victoria on Thursday and Friday. The Bureau is forecasting a low intensity heat wave for much of the state starting Wednesday. What that means here in the city is a big jump in the temperature. We go from the low 20s on Tuesday to 3 days of 30 degrees and over. And if we get to 34 on Friday, it will be 8 degrees above average. You don't need any wet weather gear for the working week. At this stage, it is looking warm and dry. For the rest of the country, there'll be late showers developing in both Brisbane and Sydney tomorrow. It is cooled down in Hobart, but after mild weekend weather, Adelaide will start to warm. Back home, and for now, Monday, just like today here, we are reaching for with a high 20s under mostly sunny skies in the north, high teens down to up to the low 20s through the south with isolated light showers, mainly about the coast and the ranges. Afternoon thunderstorms could develop up in the far northeast, as I said, during the afternoon. Around Melbourne, and we are starting the day under cloud with just a slight chance of a shower, mostly about the ranges and down in the southeastern suburbs. The cloud will start to thin out later in the day. We should get pockets of sunshine as we reach again for the low 20s, but keep in mind that wind chill is still in play. 19 degrees again, our forecast high in the city tomorrow. If you do get caught out in the elements, it may feel closer to just 13. But that is it for the gloomy weather. The rest of the week is sunny and it is warm. It is 23 degrees on Tuesday, jumping to 30 on Wednesday, then 33 on Thursday and 34 on Friday, ahead of a mild weekend when we're in the mid-20s. So just 19 degrees tomorrow, then it's a big warm-up. Beck, Mike, we're getting back into the 30s and I like that.
Yeah,
I love the heat.
It's me.
Thanks, Son.
Thank you.
And that's 7 News for this Sunday. We'll have updates throughout the night.
For now, from the 7 News team, please take care. Good night.